I wandered, lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils.
Well, welcome everyone. It's great to see you here. My name is Karen Davis, and I'm the Publications Director for the Camera Club of Richmond. And this is another episode of our Spotlights. Today, we're going to spotlight one of our newer members of the Camera Club. This is Kurt Engleman. And Kurt was recently in the spotlight for some pictures that he took and that we're going to talk a little bit about. So Kurt, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
How did you hear about the Camera Club of Richmond?
So I work at Capital One, and the Camera Club of Richmond had sponsored, like a photo evaluation for Capital One employees. And I follow some of the art program announcements at work. And so I had seen the kind of advertisement for that. And I thought it would be a neat way for me to get some feedback on like a recent photograph I had taken. So not knowing much about the Camera Club of Richmond, just knowing that it sounded like a good opportunity, I submitted a photo and then joined the session. I think it was Bob Pappas and Doug Turner who were providing the critiques for the one that I joined. And then you, Karen, were actually there at the meeting as well and had kind of given the little spiel about Camera Club of Richmond and how that might be helpful for people to consider joining to kind of advance their photography skills and get more feedback on their images. So that was the thing that really sparked me to understand what Camera Club of Richmond was and see the benefit of joining.
Okay, that's wonderful. So what initially sparked your interest in photography? Did you start as a young child, or is this something new for you?
I'd say maybe 10 years ago. I guess like kind of always I've had an interest in visual arts, like drawing and painting and graphic design. Not that I'm great at any of those, but they've always been interesting to me. And then when I finished up my graduate degree back in 2008, I had a little bit of a break between school ending and going back to work. And so I filled that break with like a 30-day trip to Europe, which was a great opportunity. But I also figured I wanted to take some pictures of the trip to kind of remember it. So I bought a point and shoot camera back then and sort of practiced for a few months before the trip, and then kind of documented everything along the way, and then shared sort of a photo album of it with some of my friends that went with me on the trip afterwards. But I think like being in a really neat place and taking pictures every day for 30 days is really kind of what like sparked my interest. So starting in 2008, I guess I just kept practicing, reading books, upgrading my camera equipment. And that was sort of my journey. And then in 2019, I really wanted to get like better at it. So I took some formal classes that were taught through University of Michigan on the Coursera platform. And there were courses related to like camera control and composition and photo editing. It was like 5 classes over 6 months with a capstone project where you had to create like a portfolio of work related to a theme. And there were lectures and exercises and like peer feedback. And that was really what I think helped me kind of move from like really amateur to just maybe a little bit better amateur now.
Well, you're in good company because, within the club, there are a lot of amateurs. There are a lot of us that, gotten paid a little bit for some photos. And then, we've had people stand up and introduce themselves as guests that said, I got a camera for Christmas. So, it's all ranges. And, we've got some really terrific photographers. There's a lot of neat mentoring that goes on within the club too, when we can all get together, which looks like, maybe that's coming sooner than we think.
Yeah.
So it sounds like with your travels, and you mentioned earlier that you like landscape photography, but I understand that several of your photos, 11 if I counted correctly, won some awards, probably, I think when I counted those, 16 awards in a recent daffodil competition. It was the American Daffodil Society, and several of other Camera Club of Richmond members had some photos in the competition. But I think you took the cake with all the awards. So let's talk about a couple of those. I believe you told me that's the first competition you've entered with your photos. So way to go.
Thanks. Yeah, I had actually, I guess, heard about the photo competition through the Southern Exposures newsletter. I think there's a section in there that talks about upcoming photo competitions. And I saw that and I thought it would be a neat way for me to have like an assignment to work on that kind of augmented what I was maybe missing after my like Coursera University of Michigan thing ended in terms of like having something to do and then getting feedback on it. So yeah, daffodils aren't necessarily my thing, but I thought it was a good practice run. So while the daffodils were blooming, I spent a couple of weeks trying to take lots of different shots in locations that I was in.
Well, I was impressed with the diversity of what you did with a simple little yellow flower, because like I think the one that you called Back Alley, with the daffodils against that brick wall, where'd you find those?
Yeah, that one was actually taken near my house. I live in the Bird Park neighborhood. And I remember I was walking my dog one afternoon and I had seen, kind of looking down a back alley, that there was like this little section of garden that someone had between like where their garage ended and where the paved alleyway started. Maybe it's 1 foot to 2 feet wide. And I noticed they had some really nice daffodils that were blooming. So I took my dog home and picked up my camera and walked back and decided to shoot a few photos there. But yeah, I think the contrast of the green and the yellow of the daffodil against the kind of like red brick with the gray mortar and kind of the purple under growth was made kind of for really neat color combination.
Yeah. Very nice composition on that. I love it. And there's something totally different. The multi-petal sunset picture is just stunning. It's almost like a portrait, of that single flower. Tell me about that one.
Yeah, I have a little place on Bugs Island Lake near Clarksville, Virginia. Just kind of like an old A-frame that was built back in the 60s or 70s. And so there's a lot of plants on the property that I guess the previous owners had done. So irises and daffodils seem to be their preferred plants. And they have this really interesting daffodil variety that I'd never seen before that has kind of these ruffled feathers to it. Yeah. So I thought cutting one of those and then taking it down near the water at sunset would be a neat way to kind of like represent the sunset without actually having the sun in the photo, kind of using the daffodil as the sun and then having the kind of blurred background be more of the water. So you get like that sunset feel without actually seeing the sunset. That was kind of my inspiration for that.
Yeah, very creative. I like that one. And then there was another one, the skyline view, where the daffodils are forming that leading edge into the picture. So tell us about that one.
Sure. I had gone to Hollywood Cemetery because I'd run through there sometimes, and I noticed that there are lots of daffodils that people have planted. So I actually spent maybe a few hours in there one day taking lots of different shots, because I think one of the categories in the photo competition had something to do with daffodils in a cemetery. Mm-hmm. The picture that I took actually ended up being actually just outside of the cemetery. If you're at I think it's called the Palmer Memorial Chapel that kind of overlooks the river. I noticed that just beyond the fence line outside of the chapel, there was that cluster of daffodils growing. So I walked outside the fence line and sort of shuffled my way in between the fence and the steep drop off that goes down to the river. There was just enough room to kind of get through and stand there and then kind of like angle down, which was the perfect view to have the daffodils in front of you and then like the Richmond skyline in the background. Yeah,
the skyline there just really makes it great shot. And I love the composition on that one also. And then, in addition, we like to highlight our spotlighted individuals by giving them the cover shot of our magazine this month. So you notice the cover shot on the Southern Exposure one of Kurt's landscape photos that I believe you call Old Man Coniston. So tell us about that one and on your travels to get that shot.
Sure. I had to travel to the UK for work back in 2019. So probably one of the last international trips before the pandemic really got into gear. And while I was there for work, I had a few extra days where I was able to travel to go see something just for fun. And I'd been recommended to go to the Lake District, which is kind of like in northwest England. And it's a really stunning area. It has obviously kind of the lush green that the UK is kind of known for, but it's a mountainous region along with lakes, hence the name Lake District, and then a lot of streams running through it. So I had done a lot of hiking while I was there. I stayed in a town called Coniston, which was on the shores of Coniston Water, which was kind of like a narrow lake, but was about 5 miles long. And so one day I took a hike around the lake. That was about, I guess, a 20-mile hike. And then they have Old Man Coniston, which is what they call the mountain that kind of is in, the town is at the base of the mountain, and then the lake is below it. And so one day I hiked up and down Old Man Coniston. And the photo that you're referencing is maybe halfway up Old Man Coniston. And I just thought it was like a quintessential way to convey the feeling of the place. You've got the lush green that you see in the grasses. Then you've got the rocky terrain that kind of conveys the mountains. The stream coming down, which sort of represents the water. Got the cloudy sky, and it was pretty cloudy and rainy the whole time I was there. And then you've got the simple bridge that kind of like uses it's really the trail crossing to go across the stream. It felt like the town to me, like nothing pretentious, just a really neat place that kind of had a laid back feel out in the beautiful countryside.
Yeah, you definitely conveyed that in the picture. Like you said, the colors, the blending together with the water and the rocks and the greenery and all. It definitely has a cozy, laid back, comfortable feel to it. So it was a great shot. I love that. So where do you generally draw your inspiration? What other kinds of things do you like to shoot?
I like to combine hiking with photography. So I'd say my preferred subject would be anything outside that allows me to just throw my camera in my backpack and kind of take along with me on hikes. And so I've tried to hike in lots of different places. It's pretty easy in Virginia to get to some really nice spots out in the mountains around a lot of our like bodies of water or out on the coast. So Virginia makes that part pretty easy to have something kind of in your backyard. And then normally when I travel, I try to do something that has an outdoor component to it. One of my favorite places in the US is Arizona. So going out there and hiking out in the desert and the mountains provides some really good subjects. And then, like I said, when I travel internationally too, I try to do something with an outdoor hiking element to it as well, like the UK trip. So those are my, I guess, preferred activities and corresponding photographs.
Yeah, super. Now that things are starting to open up a little bit, do you have any trips or any special photography projects planned? Anything coming up?
Yes, I'm looking forward to traveling now that I've been vaccinated, and it seems like we're kind of turning the corner, at least in the US. So I think for this year, I'll probably keep my travel domestically. I'd like to go out west, perhaps back to Arizona or something out there, since I've been doing a lot of local things in Virginia during the pandemic, just to stay close to home. And then I got a couple ideas for international trips, but I haven't quite nailed them down yet. So I'm looking forward to doing something international, maybe in 2022.
So again, thanks for sharing all of your images with us. And we look forward to seeing more of your work in some of our evaluations and maybe some more of those Capital One evaluations.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.